Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026. We broadcast live here every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're listening in over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. If anyone would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, it's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of our website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA effort to save our republic. Also, consider taking our 90-hour court access in the common law course. You can find the link on our front page and in the description below. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on the donation tab on the top right side of our website. You can also join our Bible studies every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in this Start Meeting room. Okay, tonight's scripture reading is going to be in Romans chapter 5, I think. Yep, Romans chapter 5, read by Alexander Scorby.
Chapter 5. Therefore, being justified by faith, by whom also we have access by faith into this grace wherein we stand, and rejoice in hope of the glory of God. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. And hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. But God commendeth his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more then, being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. For if, when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more, being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. And not only so, but we also joy in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom we have now received the atonement. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. But not as the offense, so also is the free gift. For if through the offense of one many be dead, much more the grace of God and the gift by grace which is by one man, Jesus Christ, hath abounded unto many. And not as it was by one that sinned, so is the gift. For the judgment was by one to condemnation, but the free gift is of many offenses unto justification. For if by one man's offense death reigned by one, much more they which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one, Jesus Christ. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so, by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. Moreover, the law entered that the offense might abound. But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound, that as sin hath reigned unto death, even so might grace reign through righteousness unto eternal life by Jesus Christ our Lord.
All right, Jan, do we have any announcements or any questions for tonight?
Yes, we have about 3 questions. The first one is on unlawful detainer. If I filed an unlawful detainer in a court of record, even though unlawful detainer is within their system of statutes and codes, Can I use common law in my court of record for my unlawful detainer case? The defense attorney is now claiming that since it is an unlawful detainer case, that their statutes and codes apply. I'm just seeing if this is true.
Well, if such laws exist, I'm not sure on whether they do or not. I presume they do because the lawyer told you that they did. You should get a copy of those particular, statutes. But I've always taken the position. I try to be as unargumentative as possible with the judge, although sometimes that's very difficult. But they bring up these rules and different things. And I always make the note, as long as the rules are, not repugnant to the common law, to the law of the land, to the rules of common law ultimately, which simply is common sense with an eye on justice. That's all common law really is. As long as it's not repugnant, hey, why not? I'll use it. It helps them. I would read it through and let it be known that it's not repugnant to the common law. That would be my position on thinking. Did they expound a little more on any other questions on that?
No, not on that one, John.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, the second one is an issue from New Jersey. It says, first, we have a fella that wants us to push back on towns regarding their corporate charter, but he's not getting that there will be a pushback from the town. He has a document I attached, and he wants to use these to file against the towns. Also, I'm working on a case where my friend was overcharged over $3,000 for water, and the town is harassing him. I did a state comptroller complaint, and by statute, they have to look into this and notify us in writing, but they refused. Now I want to go to the county prosecutor, state attorney general, and see if I can then show how the New Jersey Supreme Court ruling against common law grand jury access can be overturned.
I'm not too sure I really understand some of that. There was a concern that he can't get in to see a common law grand jury, or that, well, obviously there is no common law grand jury as far as the court setting them up. Do you understand his position on that more?
Well, the first part of that, he's apparently has some documentation that he can file against the town, and it seems like they won't push back, so he might be able to send it through and prosecute.
Did he say that he had some documentation on it?
He has a document attached, and I didn't see that document. Let me go see if I can find it. Quickly, let's see. No, there wasn't anything attached, so I think he forgot to add the attachment. That's all I've got on it, John.
Okay. All right, well, hopefully he's listening. And maybe he can resend that attachment and make note that he's resending the attachment to mail or questions, I guess, either one, at nationallibertyalliance.org.
I think he's in the queue tonight, John, or he's here attending anyway.
All right, well, then he can bring up more.
Maybe he can enlighten us.
Well, it's an interesting point. We are working in the courts trying to bring back, of course, a court of record, which would be courts of justice, would be courts that proceed according to the natural law for we the people. And, that's our main focus, of course. But it is interesting noting that the Organic Act of 1871, which incorporated the United States of America, and therein they incorporated every state and every county. I'm under the understanding, I've heard, I think Gerard mentioned this on a couple occasions, I've never looked into it, that there are some counties that have not incorporated, and maybe there's a state or two that hasn't incorporated. Their evil has really touched down all the way down into the very villages in the counties. And so therefore the villages are incorporated, the cities are incorporated. You see, this is corporatism, and that's what they were building, was corporatism. That was the whole purpose of democracy. As a matter of fact, I hadn't given too much thought about this before, but recently I've given a lot of thought about this idea of democracy that these people have brought up. That in itself is subversion, because they took an oath to give us a republic form of government. And when they pushed their democracy, and they've trained everyone, the news constantly talks about it, elected individuals constantly call us a democracy. Even the Supreme Court justices call us a democracy. I've heard at least one or two of them use the word democracy. I mean, can they really be that ignorant to think that we are a democracy, that they don't know the law, that they don't know the Constitution, that they don't know the history of who we are as a people, and they call us a democracy? And this goes all the way back to the beginning, through the Federalists. The Federalists morphed in the early part of the 1800s, the 19th century there, and morphed into the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party has been pushing constantly in the minds of the people, in the minds of everyone, that we are a democracy. And that's a major problem. But nevertheless, being a democracy is one of the things that they've done. And a democracy, as our founding fathers told us, will destroy itself. And it is just the first part of bringing us into an oligarchy. And an oligarchy could end up being, anything it wants. It could be socialism, communism, Nazism. And Nazism in itself, which is a form of communism and socialism anyway to some degree, Nazism is corporatism. So the whole thing has been brought together. They've bastardized our courts. They've closed down our courts of justice. They claim that we are, we're under civil law, and that's what our founding fathers put us under, so they claim, and that we are formed under Rome, the Roman Empire, that is, of course, they claim. And where in fact, of course, that is all a lie. We're under the laws of nature and of nature's God. So they've actually, all of this, when you put it together, is subversion. And I think maybe I'm going to do a little bit of a study or some research on trying to discover, what states have incorporated, when they incorporated, work through the towns when they were incorporated, and the counties, the towns, the villages, and so on. Might take quite a bit to put that together, but I'm sure there's some place where that's listed, and maybe it'll be easy to put together. But I'd like to put something together and lay it all together in such a fashion, which all comes in under the umbrella of the, corporatism that they had set up under the Organic Act of 1871. And the other thing is, and of course the Bar Association, which really created and put together and to a major degree controlled or enforced, or a lot of other things, all of this democracy and the whole structure that they have created and put us under this umbrella of corporatism. And so it all really comes together. And the Bar Association, which is very clear, they teach the things that I just spoke about. And that is subversion. There are actual statutes that talk about this, that trying to change us who we are from a republic to something else is subversion. And so that's something, I think, a paper we should be working on hopefully soon. And maybe we'll get it out to the administration and see if they respond to that in some way. And I mentioned this a couple of times. Even today I heard something. It escapes me at the moment what it was I heard, but it seems like they are talking about the things we are talking about. And again, whether they're getting that from us or they always knew it and we're just kind of reinforcing it by the papers that we file, well, either way, one way or the other, it doesn't really matter as long as they understand where we need to get back to. And we need to get rid of everyone, all these judges on the federal judiciary, and all 94 federal districts. Every single one of them got to go, and we have to, bring other people in who understand that, we are a people of law, and that law that we're under, the laws of nature and nature's God. Even their equity, and equity thereby being, being statutes, being legislated law, which we gave them the authority to write under Article 1 of the Constitution. I believe it was Section 8. And we gave them 18 powers, and they, of course, went way beyond the 18 powers. But we did give them the powers to write law to control commercial activity, interstate commercial activity, to control the government agencies and the government agents that work in there, and even the individuals employed. And that's the purpose of equity. But even equity is to go forward under the rules of common law. And the rules of common law brings them back to natural law. So they can't write statutes that are repugnant to the natural law. But, of course, when it comes to the people, we're not under equity. We're under law, L-A-W. And if you go into Black's law, even Rovier's law, law is that which proceeds according to the common law. And it's the law, and that's the law of our land, which is clearly defined in the Declaration of Independence, the laws of nature and of nature's God. So that's something I think I'd like to, maybe the next thing we're going to address. I got to do some research on it, and hopefully the research isn't going to take a lot. I think there's got to be places where we can find that, and if anybody else could maybe look into this, and if they find something, get back to us. Maybe there's a place that lists out all of the states, counties, towns, villages, cities, and so on that are incorporated, and when they were incorporated. And if they do find something like that in one place, that would they can send it to us, a link to that information at mail@nationallibertyalliance.org. And put in the subject matter corporatism. This way, it'll be easy to flag out. So anyway, okay, is that the last question?
Well, there is another one, John, and it was sent in by Tony B. And it says, but it was directed to Caleb Glick. You remember we talked about him here at the meeting Thursday a little bit. It says, this is from John Drash's book, Common Law Handbook. Please provide your reasoning for common law not ever making it over the pond. Now, I assume that's addressed to Glick and not to you. And there are 5 references there. If you check your email at about 8:43, they're all there in the email I forwarded to you. There are copies out of your book, and they're highlighted. The trouble is they're highlighted in 3 colors, green, red, and yellow, and I'm not sure what the differences are. If you want, you can take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they meant when they said, what are they talking about over the pond? Are they talking about from
Britain? Yeah.
From Britain.
Never made it here from Britain, yeah.
What never made it here? It sounded like they said
common law.
Well, of course common law did make it here. I'm not sure why they would say that. Yeah. Because we're under common law. That was the problem. That's why the king sent over swarms of bar attorneys to destroy our common law. And it actually took place long before we even became states. This happened in 1750 because the king was having problems with certain individuals, Benjamin Franklin being one of them, probably the major one. And of course, they were in the process, and I don't know whether they had done it already yet by that point. I never looked into that, but I'm sure they probably had, at least in the process of destroying it, because the king had a good grip on the nation, his nation. and that is that they had already gotten rid of common law or in the process of totally annihilating it. They had to get rid of it here in the colonies, and then eventually became states, and they still haven't stopped. They're still trying to destroy it. They seem to be the worst enemies. People don't realize that. People think that they're one of our closest friends. But, you know, how the devil works. All right, so that's it? That's
all, John.
Okay. All right, before we get started, we're going to open the queue in a minute. Oh, by the way, the queue is already open. Let me just double check because I had an error. I hit that record button by accident before. Let me just make sure we are being recorded. Hang on. Okay, we are being recorded. All right, we're going to open up the queue in a second. Anybody wants to get into the queue, it's a *6 and 1 if you're on a phone. If you're on an Apple browser, there should be a button there somewhere that you should be able to click in and get into the queue. We are looking for help. Anybody that wants to volunteer some help, you know, there's quite a few things we'd like to really do. Matter of fact, Jan, I think we should get a meeting together on these subject matters that I'm going to just bring up quickly. I'm just going to list a couple of things, and I'm sure there's other things that people can think about. But these are a couple of important things I think we need to really try to focus in on and look on. And we need help doing this. We need as many volunteers as we can. You know, we have, I think it's 180, 190 committees of safety. Let me take a quick look down on the bottom of our site here because we do list it out. Okay, committees of safety. We have 196 committees of safety. And we need, you know, we teach the committees of safety through handbooks particularly. We should hope that the leadership, and actually they should encourage all of their members to come to National Liberty Alliance's Monday night program and also get them onto the sites to make sure they're being educated. We're trusting that they're at least on the site getting educated because you can't reinvent the wheel. And if everybody's reinventing the wheel, there's no connection between us. You know, we all have to be on the same page. And so all we have to do is pick up what our founding fathers had laid up for us. They've already created the wheel, so to speak. So we just need to focus in on what they had done, and we do the same. And so we put together handbooks on how to start a committee of safety, how to structure it, how to put it together, how to form it. And we also gave plenty of information on how to create a charter. And we should hope that the framework of the charter, hopefully we all use the same framework. There's a lot to be added onto a charter, but the structure, the framework of the charter is important. Maybe one Monday, maybe we'll read that charter and talk a little bit about it. It's only a couple of pages, really. But the charter really, each county has its own individual problems. We also have problems we share with many other counties. And so for that purpose, we need to be structured the same way. And each county adds to themselves and takes care of their own business and adds things that they need to add concerning maybe unique problems that one county may have or another one doesn't have. But whatever the case may be. Also resolutions, we set forth a structure, a framework for resolutions. Both are necessary in order to start a committee of safety, and a seal and take a vow. So those are the most important things that people need to kind of put together and start off on. And hopefully our committees of safety, because we really haven't had direct contact with these people, mostly because we don't have enough people to do so. So that's why we need as many volunteers as possible. Anybody wants to volunteer to assist us, you know, on a national, you know, at a leadership level, to really form a committee of safety, a committee of correspondence. So we teach them they need to have a committee of correspondence. For the same purpose our founding fathers had committees of correspondence, and that was to be able to really come together, you know, as one and discuss problems and situations from the standpoint of, you know, when things all started way back when. We need to do the same. They need to do the same. They need to have committees of safety. That's how the colonies worked things out, came together. It's the Committee of Safety that came together for the First Continental Congress. It was the Committee of Safety came together for the Second Continental Congress and the Declaration of Independence. It was the Committee of Safety that formed the necessary government to fight the war. It was the Committee of Safety came together to discuss and debate the Constitution and to form that Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And we can learn about that through the Federalist Papers. It was the Committee of Safeties that continued to maintain control over the government, to have government by consent. You can't have government by consent unless you have a Committee of Safety. I know of no other way. Our founding fathers, I think, were clear on this kind of a thing. The people have to be involved. If the people want to have a government and have their rights, if they want to have a government by the consent of the people, you can't. One person can't do it. You have to come together as a group of people, and that has to happen. As with them, in every colony, quite a few groups of people came together in those colonies, and that has to happen within our counties and within our states. Committees of safety in every county. We've got 3,133 counties, and we need about 3,000 counties. There are some counties that not many people live in, but not that they can't form one if there's, of course, people living in them. But anyway, we do need to form and organize in order to have government by consent. United we stand, and divided we fall. We know that we had some poison going out early on a few different committees of safety, and they were problematic and doing strange things that would get people in trouble. Some of them have gotten people in trouble, went to jail, and we tried to keep these people focused in on standing on the law and not doing stupid things. But in any event, I know there might be a position that people feel, because I remember when I was involved in the original grassroots movements, we had the Tea Party, and before that we had the Ron Paul thing. We had, the other organizations, but those two particular, I think, were the biggest ones. Of course, We the People. The We the People started, I think, in 1998 or 99. I met up with them back in 2000, and so people have to come together in order to get anything done. One voice here or a voice there just is snuffed out and not heard at all. We have to come together as a people, and to have government by consent, we have to take control of our government, and that can only be done through a Committee of Safety. One person can't do it. And we teach in our handbooks, we teach that first order of business really should be, getting once you get your original Committee of Safety going and you have some people going, maybe everyone should join in on the Education Committee. Because that's, I think, where the first places we need to start as we're building other committees of safety, other committees. And I think the committee that will grow us the fastest, any committee of safety within a county, would be the Education Committee. Because we have laid out a plan on how to communicate with the people within different school districts concerning meetings coming up and how to take back control over what our children are learning, get the proper education, civics education, a constitutional course education, and let's get back to the Pledge of Allegiance, because what I'm hearing is most schools are not saying the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. If we teach our children what liberty is all about, what the United States was founded upon, to talk on their level, depending on what education, first grade, second grade, third grade, so on, all the way up to 12th grade. And they should be learning about this right from K on, at their level, to be able to speak with them, to talk about liberty, to talk about the greatest nation ever to be formed in the world, to talk about our Bill of Rights, to talk about our Constitution, and how it was formed, and how our founding fathers went through looking at the different possible governments that they can form, and coming up with the solution that the Republican form of government is the only government that can give us liberty. And it has to be a natural law form, Republican form of government, because there are lots of republics, and none of them really seem good, and they still call themselves democracies anyway. And, you know, the difference between there are two types of democracies. I might have covered this last week, I don't remember, but there are two types of democracies. You know, one is a pure democracy. And a pure democracy is where everybody gets together to decide on every issue possible. Of course, that's impossible. Maybe with technology today, I'm sure they can come up with some craziness on that. But that's a pure democracy. The other form of democracy is where you elect an individual to represent you with, no preventions, no control. Even though we have a constitution, we've laid out the powers and the authorities that we've given these people at whatever level of government they're coming in at. We've laid out their powers and authorities, but they ignore it. They don't even know it, I don't think, in most cases. And but these people are elected, and they think because we're a democracy, they're elected to debate and talk about anything they want. And that's not the case, no. If you follow the Constitution, for instance, Article 1, with the powers and the authorities we gave the legislators, there's only 18 things they can talk about. Not 118, 18 things, that's it. Now, of course, there could be quite a few things involved in each one of those 18 things, but they have a subject that they cannot go beyond, the subject matter. And yet they do. And that's a democracy. A democracy, you send someone in to represent you into the legislators, and they just make all kinds of law. And then they debate away our rights. They debate our rights of having a weapon, free speech, freedom of religion. They debate it all away. That's a democracy. And that's what they think we are, and that's what the people think we are. And that is exactly the problem. And that's why education is so important. If we were to teach our children in school a proper education, a Jeffersonian education, even at very young age, before they even get halfway through school, they would come to such a heavy appreciation on who we are as a people and where we come from, that whatever would be introduced to them, like communism or any kind of socialism, it would be rejected immediately offhand. We wouldn't have to worry about that. But right now, a lot of our children are lost. They don't even know what sex they are sometimes. They don't say the Pledge Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They don't say anything like that. In most cases, I'm hearing anyway. I'm sure there are schools that still say that. But they're taught the woke stuff. It's just crazy stuff. They're taught socialism, communism, and they have nothing in their brains to be able to resist it. They have nothing in their brains that they have been taught to say, boy, that ain't going to work out very well. So a proper education will prevent us from falling into that kind of a danger that we are very close to. We've lost quite a few generations, from my opinion. I don't want to venture to say how many generations, but quite a few in my opinion, because these people have taken control of the education in our nation for a very long time. And who knows what they're teaching them. I was alarmed when I was helping out my nephew, and I've been to a school on numerous occasions for one thing or another, and I couldn't believe some of the things that were going on there. I mean, they had political things happening and teaching the kids how to come up, and this is a public school, by the way, to rebel on a political level. And it's a problem. So look at, only the people can save the republic. I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it another 1,000 times. Trump and his administration can give us our republic back. I think they're working on that. I think they're going to do it. But can the people receive it? Just like Benjamin Franklin said when he was asked, after the debates and the finale, and he came out and they asked, well, what kind of government do we have? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. In order to keep a republic, you must be involved. You must protect it. You have a constitution written by we the people. We ordained, we established it. No one's going to protect that but the people. You can't put people in charge to represent you and think that they're going to protect your rights, to think that they're going to protect that Constitution and defend it. They're not going to do it. They've already proven they're not going to do it. They don't even know it anyway. And so we really have to kind of reconnect or try to connect to these committees of safety that we have, kind of organized. There's 196 of them right now. We need about 3,000, but we've got 196. We need to connect with these people. We also need to teach, and this stuff is in the handbooks, but I don't know how much, people get a hold of things and then they take things in crazy directions sometimes, and hopefully there's not many of those things going on like that. But in any event, we even tried to teach in the handbooks that they need to work through committees of correspondence with other counties. The county next door, someone comes over, they're visiting the Committee of Safety, you assist that person into creating a Committee of Safety in their own county. And they should continue to come to that county Committee of Safety to learn and work together and try to pull other people together and get enough people to form a Committee of Safety next door. And they should be doing the same thing, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that's how growth can happen very quickly. But I will tell you that there is not any committee within the subcommittees of a Committee of Safety that's more powerful in bringing together a great numbers of membership than the Education Committee. Because if done right and set up right, you will have a meeting with the Education Board for that particular school district to discuss what we the people want our children to be learning, and we want to know what they are learning now, and take power there and deal with these people and remove them from their positions if necessary. It's very easy. We laid that process out also. But what happens is when you notify the people in the community that you're coming together to discuss that meeting, then you're going to go to that meeting. You will fill the hall, wherever that meeting is. You'll probably have standing room only, and you probably would have people lined out the doors. You'd have parents and grandparents coming to those meetings, and even people that are young that's looking to start a family or whatever. You'll get people coming, and they'll see the power in this. They'll see who's doing this and by what authority. They'll learn something, and they will join your Committee of Safety. And when you think about it, like for instance, my county, I think the number is 20, and let's say it is 20. It's quite a few school districts. And so when you think about going to each one of those school districts, and you think about all the people you would be pulling in, if 100 people show up, parents and grandparents and so on, at a meeting, if you pull even 10% that will get involved, and I think those are the people that would be more involved, the ones that would show up for that particular situation. I think you'd grow in leaps and bounds. Before you know it, within a couple of years, you'd have many, many hundreds of people in your committees of safety. And that's power. That's authority. That's clout. That's what takes over. That's what controls your sheriff. That's what controls your school boards. That's what controls the town boards. That's what controls your representatives, whether they're state representatives or national, federal representatives. And you have a big to say about it, and they will listen. The committees of safety have been robbed from the people. They call them the Committeeman. It's a statutory process. And for those who don't know, those are the people that put people onto the ballot. It should be we the people putting them onto the ballot. But these people are controlled by party bosses. And they put people onto the ballot. And they're totally controlled. Okay? And so they statutorize this whole process. And they control that whole process. And so they stole it from the people. We just had to take it back. We just had to form committees of safety and take control. But I'll tell you what, And I've been to a lot of their meetings because I became a committeeman on 2 occasions. I came into the system. It's a total abortion. It's a mess. It's disgusting. It's horrible. It's destructive. It's a lie. It's fraudulent. It's a horror story from my perspective. In any event, you have the county chairman. And when a county chairman speaks to anybody elected that is under, the veil of that particular county, let's say, they listen. When a county chairman tells an individual that's elected, I want to have a meeting with you, see you on Thursday at 7 o'clock at this place or that place, they will be there. Because those are the people that put them onto the ballot. They get them onto the ballot. They walk their petitions. Okay? We, the people, need to do that so that when we speak, they listen. But it takes time out of your life. Life is complex. We have a political life, at least the people coming to these meetings and listening what's going on and are involved to some degree. They have some kind of a political life. Maybe they have a godly life, hopefully. They have the things they do for work. They got their children to deal with. There's many different aspects of different things that people are involved with. And people spend way, way too much time online. Way, way too much time, texting. Let's take a little bit of that time and put it into a committee of safety and get involved in your county. You got to put it in to get it out. You figure a meeting's 2 hours long once a month. No big deal. 2 hours out of your life. And if a committee of safety is really working, everybody is committing to maybe 2 hours a month of work. Maybe making some phone calls, organizing something, bringing information, getting it together, bringing it into the committee for discussion on your monthly meetings, so you could decide which way to go and what to do. So you have to give 4 hours. That's the minimum, okay? Of course, people can put in 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever they want. People who are retired should put in a lot more because we need to give back and we need to take control. But in any event, everybody needs to think about putting 4 hours of their life into a committee of safety. That's all it takes. But also there's an education. You never had a proper education. People don't know the Constitution. They don't know the Bill of Rights. They don't know the debates within with our founding fathers' debates. They don't know the law. Our liberty is found in the law. Okay, that's our heritage, is liberty. Okay, and that's what we inherited. But if we don't protect it and take care of it, we're going to lose it. But so people need to know they need to know how to have government by consent. Nobody knows how to have government by consent. I didn't know how to have government by consent until I started doing research and falling into this, to that, to the other thing, and so on and so forth. I discovered people don't know how to have government by consent. They think all they have to do is vote. Where that goes. It's a lot more than that. You have to take control. And that's what committees of safety do. The committeemen, which is the statutory process controlled by party bosses, formed and controlled under the Republican or the Democrat Party, and of course there's other parties, but they don't seem to have much power or authority. But these two particular parties, they control a lot. They control everything. They control the people who are elected. We need to know how to do that. We need to do it. And if we don't do it, shame on us, then we lose liberty. If we don't teach our children to do it and to give back into, this great nation of ours and appreciate what they've been blessed with, if they don't do it, we'll totally lose everything. We were on the brink of losing everything. I will tell you, there's no doubt in my mind, in my heart, that if Donald Trump was never elected, I'd be dead already because we'd be in the streets. There's no way getting around it because that's where it was heading, and there's no way to stop it. And Donald Trump stopped that. He prevented all that chaos, that destruction, and he's trying to give it back to us. And his entire administration is working. You know, they all understand. They are really working hard to give it back to the people, but the people have to receive it. If we don't get up and do something about it and receive it, we don't deserve it. So, anyway, we do need help. Anybody can volunteer their help. They can send their, phone number and to, let's see, we'll send it to, I guess, Jan, where do you want them to send it? To your email address? I don't know if Jan's listening in at the moment. Anyway, you can send it to Jan, Jan, at nationallibertyalliance.org. And just tell them that you want to get involved with NLA, National Liberty Alliance, and volunteer some time in here. We need to build a committee of correspondence so that we can talk to the committees of correspondences within the other committees of safety. And if they don't have a committee of correspondence, talk to them about how important it is to set it up and what the purpose of it is all about. If we get enough people to do this, we'll come together on a couple occasions, and I'll train people on, how we have to approach this process, what the first phone call would entail, what the second follow-up phone call would entail, and so on. But with 196 organizations, we need quite a few people to work that out. If we can go professional, in other words, people would be paid to do these things, full-time work, we need money to do that, of course. But if we can get to that point where we can go professional, maybe it would only take a half a dozen people or 4 people to be involved in that. Well, to talk to 196 groups, it would only take a couple of people if people are doing it full-time. To talk to 3,000 people, if we get 3,000 committees of safety going and communicate with 3,000 committees of safety, then it might take quite a few people. But as far as on a volunteer basis, people will only be able to put maybe a couple hours a month work into it. So we need quite a few people, to really work with us. People who are retired and looking for something to do, something worthwhile, something important, something that'll benefit your posterity, your children and your grandchildren. And they want to put the time in. Maybe they could put a lot more than a couple hours a month in. But this is the only way National Liberty Alliance is going to be successful. So the other side of the coin, as far as getting funding, anybody who knows how to get funding, how to approach different corporations that might, give some monies to support something that they would believe in. And I think there's a lot of places that give money out that would support what we're doing if they understood and learned what we're doing. But we got to find those people. And if we get a few people with some deep pockets and get a few $1 million, to do this, it's probably what we would need, at least $1 million to go through the first year. I think after the first year, we'd have enough people membership to be able to support us in a way to support that professional process, pay people full-time to be able to do these things. We'd be able to generate money within ourselves. Because, you see, if you have 10,000 people, let's say we get membership of 100,000 or 500,000, whatever, a huge number of membership. But if we get only 10,000 of those people, okay, and whatever big number that would need to be in order to get 10,000 people that would be giving us $5 a month, okay, that's $50,000 a month. That would pay a lot of salaries. We'd be able to get a lot of people working. And that would be what we'd be shooting for. But we need that seed money. We need that somebody who has deep pockets, who sees what we're doing and believes in us. So anybody who has any ideas on, or any people that might be interested in trying to research that out to figure out how we can get some monies in order to do that, we we'd appreciate that and get a hold of us, and let's try to organize something and see once what we can find out. So we need volunteers. So for funding and for of course getting the committee of correspondence. That would be the first two things. There are other things we need to do that takes time and money, and maybe we'll talk about that another time. But those are the two main things I think we have to focus into. Another way people can help us is by bringing guests to our Monday night meetings. We need to build our membership. Also, people listen to podcasters and different things on the internet. Maybe try to get a hold of the people that they listen to and make a connection with National Liberty Alliance here for interviews. We used to do a lot of interviews way back. We were doing interviews way back in the beginning. We were getting a lot of people coming in at that time. So interviews is a big thing, getting onto a podcast and talking about who we are, what we're doing, and what our plan is. So anybody that could make those contacts and get that information of any podcast or whatever that would be interested in interviewing us, send that to Jan at nationallibertyalliance.org, the podcast, the contact information, phone number, and who that contact would be. So everybody can do that. People who are listening in on tonight's program, everyone can do that. And bring people to our meetings. Everyone can do that. And we need to get educated. Everyone can do that, if you will. Find the time to do it. All right, anyway, we're going to open up the queue right now. Again, anybody else wants to get into the queue? We do have people in the queue right now. Let me see how many. Yeah, we got 4 people. If anybody else wants to get into the queue, it's a *6 and 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on an Apple browser, you can push the button. Okay, we'll take our first person. Let me click the button. Amanda. Oh, I lost you, Amanda. Get back into the queue. Hang on. Amanda, I lost you. Try to get back into the queue, and I'll put you up front here. There you go. Yeah, sorry about that. I hit you twice somehow. Okay, you're unmuted, Amanda. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
You can hear. What state you from?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Amanda from Wisconsin. You got it.
I can get more people on the Monday night calls, by the way. I have a pretty large following on Telegram, so I'm going to be putting National Liberty Alliance. I've already shared some stuff from your website, but I'm going to try to get some people into this because it's so important. And I know a lot of people on my Telegram channel that are going through something similar in these courts, and we've all been trying to fight in our own ways, with the knowledge that we've had, but this is like so comprehensive, compared to everything that's been out there on different websites available to the people for studying.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I've just stumbled into something like a whole other rabbit hole.
I guess sometimes when I talk or you're talking and one can't be heard, let me suggest something, and then you can continue. Are you coming in on an app or a browser? You see
on an app.
Okay, so you see the web page that I got opened, right?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay, if you're not familiar with this, we have a flyer here. If you click on a flyer, this is what we hand out. I mean, you can create your own flyer and different things and thoughts on what this website is about and so on and so forth. But this talks mostly about education. Make America a republic again. Only the people can save the republic. The question is, will you? And then we give the information about it. So this is something that you might want to share with people. But
okay, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I feel bad. I was talking over you and I didn't mean to. Yeah, I can definitely share that. I know so many people are desperate for, like, what do we do? We've all been sort of waiting for an external savior at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have, really gone, to court. I have 11 cases against me here in Wisconsin. long story short, I don't want to share my whole life story with everyone on here if you don't want to listen to that. But yeah, I have 11 cases against me that all stemmed from a divorce case 3.5 years ago. And my son was taken from me. He was 4 at the time, and he's going to be 8 this year, and I haven't seen him in 3.5 years. And so, I've been doing research for the last 3.5 years, trying to figure out like what can I do, because there's so much court corruption. It was so evident. And I know many people who have gone through something very similar. And, it seems that people who are of a certain mindset, if you will, even before the divorce, I was studying common law and, the basics of, what our country used to be versus what it is now, like the Act of 1871 and everything. And so I had a Telegram following, and I don't think it was a coincidence that I was in a court that seemed rigged to, take everything from me, which they did. So, yeah, long story short, I have 11 cases against me, 3 cases against 3 different individuals that are not court officials. And so, I've kind of been stuck in limbo the last 2 years, and I do have questions because I am brand new to this. I am just looking right now. I actually sent it in an email while you were talking, but let me pull up that email real quick. I didn't know if I had an opportunity to talk, so that's why I sent it that way. So I'm looking at the website, right? And you guys have that web page that says, I think it said something about abuse in court, and how you guys could help. And so it has this link to an affidavit that is like a template. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of cases, very specific ones, family court situations. We would, and generally as not necessarily running their case, okay, just sort of on their behalf of them, and filing papers and assisting them in whatever way we can. We were doing indictments. We were doing the non-judicial foreclosures, both cases, whether it's the tax or the mortgage companies, both processes are unlawful. And in the beginning, I think we might have been a little naive, thinking we might be able to really get something done on that level, because we had we were quotes from the Supreme Court and our founding fathers. But the courts are so corrupt, it didn't take long before we realized we're not going to really get anywhere. But we can build a case and do what we can, and in some cases, maybe people will get some relief from it. Now, we haven't been doing that for a while, but we're doing it for quite a few years. We've accumulated a lot of cases. You can find a lot of these cases under federal court cases here on the right side of our website, and you can come down. We have, it might probably be, action against the judiciary, for instance. Okay. And so those cases were used. Okay, this is a list of a lot of the cases that we had done, or filed papers on their behalf, really. Not necessarily running their case, we can't do that, but just file papers on their behalf to force the court to be obedient to the law of the land. Again, like I said, being naive in the beginning, thinking we might get somewhere, quite quickly we discovered these people are just so corrupt, there's no getting through to these people. But we continue to fight the battle, and we built a case against the federal judiciary. And we ended up literally, as crazy as this might sound, but a necessity anyway, is an indictment on the entire federal judiciary. And that's why we're in the Supreme Court sending the papers there, trying to put, and we've also already sent copies of a lot of indictments we've done, including the indictment against the federal judiciary, to the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General. And again, what those cases did was they proved conspiracy. Because whether you are in California, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, Texas, Vermont, It doesn't matter where you're at, whatever federal district we're in, there's 94 federal districts, every single one of them broke the law in the same way and denied people their due process in every single case.
Yeah, I've been reading basically everything you guys have out there on the website for the last couple of months, just to become familiar with what you guys were doing and trying to relate it to what I've been through and what I can do, to get my son back. And oh my gosh, is it corrupt? It is so bad. And that's why, like no matter what I said or did, it didn't matter, right? No matter which way I fought, it didn't matter. There's so much corruption at every level.
Did you lose your son through the divorce court, or through, which is part of the family court anyway?
Divorce court. Yeah, my ex-husband took him. It was a very abusive marriage, and he took everything. He took my son. He claimed I was schizophrenic, completely unsubstantiated. That was completely bogus. But the court went along with it because they didn't listen to me. I mean, it's very clear that I'm not schizophrenic.
Did you have anybody representing you, or were you in there fighting the battle on your own?
No, I was in there on my own. I didn't. My ex had taken all of the money out of the bank account, and he did something, I forget what it's called, but it was very nasty. This is when I wasn't really aware of the bar and what they were about. But and I'm almost glad that I did not get an attorney.
Let me ask you a few questions, because maybe I can give you a few thoughts, and maybe it could be done at the same time. I don't know. But now, when you were going through your divorce, okay, your husband was working and was the breadwinner, or were you working?
Yes, I was a stay-at-home mom.
You were a stay-at-home mom. Okay, let me tell you something, and I don't know why the court didn't tell you this, but we are looking at the most corrupt courts in the United States, is the family court and the divorce court. They just don't care about families. They don't care about people. It's all about money. And if you're in a family court situation, and you kind of transfer over to that, because they like to give your children sometimes lawyers. So if you have 2 or 3 kids, there's 2 or 3 there. You got a lawyer, and the other one, and your spouse has a lawyer. You got 5, 6 lawyers. They have no connection to what's really going on in the family. The destruction. They really don't care. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to see it.
Correct.
And the judge is a lawyer. And how do a group of lawyers do anything to help any family to get through a crisis?
And it was clear. It was clear it was corrupt. I mean, even bribes and everything. It was admitted in one of the court hearings that my ex-husband's father, who had a lot of money, was going to pay a deposit for the guardian ad litem. And that's not how the procedure works in the courts anyways. It's always done through billing the county, and then they bill the parties. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing is just completely wrought with corruption.
What I'm trying to get to, though, before was the fact that because you were a stay-at-home mom, and he had a lawyer, and he was coming in, the court should have forced him to pay for a lawyer for you.
No, they actually ended up taking it out from the marital settlement. I didn't get anything. The house was taken from me, all of the 401k. I didn't even get to pick up my toothbrush. I'm not even kidding you.
But you said that you didn't have a lawyer, though, right, to represent?
No, I didn't.
Okay. The point I'm trying to say, from day one, since you didn't have a lawyer, they should have forced him to have paid for a lawyer, because he's the income. Okay? And if he's got a lawyer, you should have a lawyer. Okay? Now, not that lawyers are any good, because they're in it for the money. They don't care. The longer they can stretch things out, the more it could be. If anybody has to go through a divorce, first order of business really is to talk to the spouse. Sometimes is such a big problem, it's very difficult to do, but you got to talk to your spouse and say, look, if we fight this thing tooth and nail, there is a process that goes through, and we're going to lose every single thing to lawyers. That's what's going to happen. Or a large percentage of what we have, we're going to lose to the lawyers.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? And I've done a divorce case already. It's very, very simple. You can go up and you grab a packet from them, and it has all the paperwork, everything of the process, and you just go through it and start filling out papers, and you follow the process. Most of it is very simple, and And it's really very logical. Ultimately, the whole system is kind of logical. It's the lawyers that screw it up, that don't make it simple and just push it through properly. And discussing, look, you discuss certain things, you have an argument, okay? You want this and he wants that. You kind of negotiate away, then you get to certain points where you can't agree. Well, those are the things that have to be debated in a court, but it should be in a court of law, not in their rinky-dink courts that they've got going. But in any event, that's what should have happened. You should have had a lawyer, and the process, and this is kind of late for you, but the process could have been very easy if you can just have agreed to do it without lawyers. You don't even need a lawyer to do this. You really don't.
It was completely, everything was pre-planned. My ex told me I would end up homeless, which I did. I mean, everything was completely pre-planned with his lawyer. They even contacted every single attorney's office in the area in the state that we were living in, so that I couldn't get a lawyer, because they have that thing where it would be a conflict of interest if I would be represented by one of their attorneys, because they had been contacted already by the lawyer and my ex. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure I understand that part, but look at when you get to the point with the children. How was it? Who made the decision on taking your children and you not being able to have access?
The guardian ad litem that was paid for by my ex's family.
So
yeah.
They, look at your first property is your body. Okay, your children, are your property in the sense that they're your responsibility till they're of age. And every child deserves the right of a mother and a father. Okay, they deserve that right, and government has no authority to take that away from that child. Now, with that said, it sounds to me that you didn't have due process. So you could do something right now by fighting in court for due process. The problem that you might have is getting a lawyer. Number one, costs money. Number two, they're in about the money anyway, and they're going to go along with the status quo. And a lot of lawyers, they just suck, to be honest with you. They don't really do their homework. They don't really understand the case, the key points, the key positions that need to be made. I mean, you get a really good lawyer that understands these things, then at least you can get something going, and still cost you an arm and a leg to do that. So the only other way, the only other process is to learn yourself to go through the process. But that takes time. How much knowledge of the court system and how it works?
Yeah.
You have any knowledge on that, how it works?
Oh yeah, now I do. Which is why I've been on the NLA website for 3.5 months now, preparing to take this to the district court against the court officials, because it's the only. I already went to the sheriff 2.5 years ago. I went to the sheriff, and there's a new sheriff, so now I've contacted him, because I have no other way. The entire court in this county was involved, and they're not going to go against what they've already ruled on. It would mean admitting to corruption, which is exactly what it was.
There's a simple way to deal with this, and you might get justice here. You see, this is not a status quo case. It could be a status quo case in your county where you're at. That's a possibility because of who your husband and connections or whatever is going on between them. Maybe a connection with a particular lawyer and a judge, and then that your husband is involved with, and so to a degree there's kind of a status quo there. But generally speaking, this is not a status quo case. So in my opinion, okay, this is a real easy case to take into the federal court for a denial of due process. And if you were denied due process, they would overturn that, and you'd get your parental rights back. Now, that is the key to the whole point, is due process. Now, to get into federal court, you have to understand how the federal court works. You have to understand how the state court works. Not a difficult thing, really. The structure and the way things work is not difficult to understand. It really is. You just have to put some time into it. I wrote a book called Understanding. Let me see if I can get to that page. It's a very inexpensive book. But anyway, books by John Darash under Welcome. Okay, it's Understanding federal courts. Okay, here goes. Understanding the federal courts. It's in $20 for the book. Now, that book will give you a basic understanding of the structure of the federal courts, okay? And it's very important to understand that structure if this is the route you want to take. And see what I see for you to get it, because you're not going to get justice in that county, okay? You could try to move it into the state court but there is a connection in the state court between the family court and the state court. That also could be problematic. So the thing is for me, it's a federal issue. Now, if it goes into when you go into the federal court, people need to understand you have to have a constitutional issue. You can't go in there and argue a divorce. You can't go in there and argue for your children. You can't argue any of these things. But if you had due process, you argue that. That's the only thing that could be heard. And if in fact, and it sounds like it is in fact, you have not had due process is to be heard in a court of law. You were not heard in a court of law. First of all, family courts, they're statutory. Divorce courts, they're statutory. And most state courts, generally speaking, are statutory also. But you need to open up a court of record. Now, you do want to make your argument from a common law perspective. But again, you got to walk gently with this, because I try to agree as much as I can with the system, but only if and there's a lot of structures and rules that they run under, even though the rules are lawful. They operate under these rules, and a lot of these rules are in harmony with the common law. You can't argue with them.
Yeah, anything that's repugnant. I listened to what you were saying earlier. Anything that's repugnant to the Constitution, that's when you argue it, right?
Right. But the point is, if you go into the court, in the federal court, and you did not get due process, and you prove that you didn't get due process, all you have to do is lay out the process that one individual what was their title in the court?
As far as, are you talking about the judge or the court commissioners?
Well, who made the decision, the actual decision?
The guardian ad litem made the recommendation, but it was signed off by a court commissioner and then later signed by a judge.
Okay, but you never had an argument in a court of law. You never had a due process.
I did not have due process at all.
You've had some discussions in the courtroom, but generally speaking, it's not even really a courtroom. It's a kangaroo court. It's statutory. Yeah. And again, I cannot understate this. The most evil court in America is the family court system.
Yeah.
Total.
Well, and they operate under this plausible deniability, if you will, where you can't prove certain things happen, but you have a pretty darn good understanding of what's going on, which is that they're all in cahoots with each other. Like, I have no way to prove it, but it certainly seems that way. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, look, in order to do these things, you got to go into federal court. You got to go for denial of due process. I don't see how you can lose that. It's not a status quo case that you'd have to be concerned about that. The judge might feel good to do the right thing from time to time. This is a kind of a case that maybe he feels right to do the right thing. If you win in that, then everything they've done is just gone, doesn't exist no more. You have the right of having your child, and your position. Look at your ex has he remarried? Was he living with somebody?
I have no idea. I have no contact. I haven't had any contact.
Okay. In most cases, when there's children involved and you have a divorce, in most cases, the man has to go out to work, and the woman usually hasn't been in, maybe not necessarily in today's environment. And when I was a kid, mothers stayed home and fathers went to work, and that was that. And so often the fathers couldn't have the children full time, so more often than not they would yield up to the fact that they'd be with the mother.
Yeah, his parents are raising my son. That's exactly what's happened.
Well, that's the problem now. They're out of the picture though, because they don't belong raising your son unless
I know.
Okay, and so again, this should throw the whole case upside down. Now you'd end up back in court. Okay, because now they tried to do it with due process, but now you have to understand how that court works, because you'd be in a state court. and you need to understand the process, the procedure. Unless you have the money to pay for a lawyer. But like I told you, lawyers are horrible in my opinion. Most of them really don't care about anything, and most of them are just stupid. They may be educated, they may appear to be smart, but and they may even, whatever. They may have passed the bar and everything else, but that doesn't mean they're not stupid, okay? Because a lot of people are stupid, okay? And this is the problem. So, I would suggest taking a course. We do give a course if you want that. I mean, you can go to college and spend $13,000 for the process of going into the courts. But under education, for instance, we have court access in the common law. Now, let me go back here a minute. Let me just step back.
I just started that today. So it's going to take me a while to study it, but I want to go in there with the knowledge that I need.
It's going to take time, and it depends on your motivation and how much time you have to put into this. But the first, court access in the common law, that was I think my second book, if I recall. My first book was Government by Consent. But court access in the common law, that will give you a tremendous amount of information. It's structural, a lot of forms, and so on and so forth, and it's easy to breeze through. So I do suggest if anybody taking the course, they take the book also. If people have basic knowledge of how things work, then maybe the book in itself should be sufficient. But anyway, you could take the course. We only charge $125 for that course, and it's a 90-hour course. And when I tried to learn due process, how the courts work, how the structure works, how to go in and fight a case, I took a course that was put out there by a lawyer. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll remember the name at some point, and I'll make a note of it. But I took his course, and what I did is I took from Friday evening, because I was working at the time. On a Friday evening, I started the course, and I worked through it all the way through till Sunday. I mean, I was really hitting that course really hard, making lots of notes, trying to understand. I came out at the end of that in 3 days to understand the structure, and that was the important point, to understand enough of the structure and the process. Now, the components that make up the process, those are the things you have to learn. And a lot of that is done by forms. They don't like when you really make your own papers up. They like you to work through forms because it's structural, stays certain on certain points. I alter the forms when necessary, but I use their forms. And I really, kind of put around it the common law. I always put in the common law into it. And the key words for that is a court of record, Opening up a court of record is I, your name, one of the people of your state, in this court of record, sues or countersues, whatever the case may be. And that opens a court of record. And on the top of the paper on the right side, you put in jury, trial by jury demanded, okay? And that completely opens up a court of record. And now you want to get into it because you want a court of record. You don't want one judge making any decision for you. You want to get people. So we teach, a lot of the process. One of the things you want to learn is goodness, what's it called? I work on it all the time, all day long. Hang on a second. PowerPoint. You want to learn PowerPoint, okay? When you go into a court and you produce your case, you don't want to just speak. You want to have notes, and you can have those notes right through your PowerPoint. And so you have a visual, okay, so the people see the words in writing, and you are expressing them verbally, so you're putting it into their brains in a couple of different ways. And the way you put things together, you kind of can put, different little pictures or something in there, and it kind of gets their attention and focus. But you can really lay out a case that way pretty simply. So you definitely want to learn PowerPoint, and we have some, links you can go to learn PowerPoint. I mean, there's people on YouTube. You can learn everything you want to know about PowerPoint. But you need something like that, because I think it's very important if you end up in a jury trial. So you have, but all this has to be learned. I would say a person that is really serious, okay, and really wants to learn and puts in the time. If you go to college to get a doctrine, or even go to college to become a lawyer, okay. You may have only you may have 3 days of classes, okay, and you may have a couple hours in this class and an hour in this class, maybe 2 times a week. Usually it's 40 minutes. But let's say a couple hours here or there. So your classes during the day might be like maybe throughout the week, maybe 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it would be. Depending the subjects you're taking at a time. But the point is you're focusing in on law. So at home is where you really got to put your time in. If you really want to get serious going to college, you want to put your focus in 8 to 12 hours a day, okay, period. If you're 4 hours in the class during the day, you need those other 4 to 8 hours, at home working on what you're working on those 4 hours. And again, you're just looking at one subject matter, so you're looking at, to learn the law. So I would say, is someone really focusing in and putting 8 hours a day of study and focusing in on it in 6 months, I think you could be really good at this. Most people don't have that kind of time to put that kind of hours in, so it might take a year or so to really get through things. So you already got some experience. And you should be able to move through things very quickly. Here's the key. Remember, there is a procedure, and the procedure is very simple. It's the structure of the process and how things work. Once you get that picture, which is very simple, okay, you should get it pretty quickly. Once you get that picture, the other thing is realizing most of your work is filing forms in the court and affidavits telling your story, okay? Affidavits have to be clear and focused, So anyway, you can learn all this stuff in the course. I strongly suggest anybody that really wants to do this thing to learn that. Anybody that has the basics, again, that book, Court Access in the Common Law, might be sufficient, but nothing beats a 90-hour lecture course. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, I got to move on to the next person. If you got anything final, and of course you're welcome.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for the information. I appreciate your time.
All right. Okay, appreciate the call. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next week you come up with something else, and we can talk some more. Okay, let me go to our next caller. Let's see. It was Frank trying to find you to unmute you. Let me see if I can unmute Frank.
Yeah, how's that?
Frank, are you unmuted?
Yeah, hey, John. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
All right, so I'll make it quick because I got to give you a lot of credit, man. You got a lot of stamina. So my friend in New Jersey, the Old Bridge Township, they charged him an extra $3,800 on his water bill, and he didn't know why. They wouldn't give him an accounting. So
$38. Wow.
Yeah, they're stealing money. So he last year it was August 12th or 13th. He wrote out a check for the $3,800, but instead of sending it to Old Bridge Utility, he sent it to the township. So they got 5 checks toward the property tax now, and they didn't take it upon themselves to go, oh, this must be the water bill. So we figured that out after I checked everything out. So in the state of New Jersey, we had the state comptroller's office where they audit the towns, and by statute they have to, look at things and respond in writing. Well, they jerked them around. And then here in New Jersey, I don't know if you remember the Larry Lukovsky Supreme Court in New Jersey case where he said he had a common law right to access the grand jury. And as you said before, that these judges call us a democracy. Barry Albin, our Supreme Court justice, said, when our founders created this democracy, they didn't people don't access the grand jury, and we have all of these agencies here to remedy and fix issues for the people that they can go to. So then we all know that that's bull. So I wanted to see if I can use this situation to really show the abuse and the nonsense of that ruling, because I was going to do go to the county prosecutor with this, the AG, maybe do some affidavits. I need a little organizing with this, so I have a slam dunk case that people need to access the grand jury because there's just too much going on in this state and other states. And then I want to give you guys $100 when I do the donation, which is I'm going to do that tonight, and then I'll help you guys with the help that you need. So Jan could he's got my number and email, and we can do that.
All right. Well, look at when you go to a prosecutor or attorney general or whatever, these people seem to think they're there only to represent the state. Okay. And unfortunately, that's their thinking, and it should not be their thinking. They do make the claim when it's a criminal case, and they say the people versus, and therefore he's representing the people. Okay, the whole thing's a con job, though, because they really, it's structured that way for a reason. Number one, these people in most cases are very ignorant, and they're just following what they've been told. People go to school, they learn what to think, they don't learn how to think. Understanding things, and then, people being trained to think for themselves and structure things for themselves and think out a situation and then respond to it in their class or whatever, to whatever it is, the subject matter. But they don't teach people that, whether you're in college, and certainly not the children. Children, they're just brainwashed ultimately throughout the whole school system, the whole school process. And these people that become lawyers, they've been brainwashed in their first 12 years of school to begin with, and then they go to college and they're just further brainwashed within the subject matter that they're focusing in on. And they're just taught to lie. Because whatever benefits the status quo is what they're really taught. So freeing yourself off, and I'm totally self-educated. I didn't learn what I learned in college. I learned it just by self-educating, research and writing and doing things to come to an understanding. And but what you need to do, though, is you need to take it into court. But to take it into court, you have to know how to take it in court. Do you understand how the courts work? My same question I asked the person before you. What kind of a background do you have
I've done the tax court, the property tax appeal, but but you have the training, so you want me to do that training, correct?
Well, if you want to be successful in dealing with these people, but you got to remember, it takes time. You're not going to learn this overnight. 6 months of solid, good focus, you can come out of this with a great knowledge, because it's only one subject. When you go to college, you're doing a lot more than one subject. But if you're focusing on one subject like this, court access and the common law, you can get and become very good at this in 6 months if you're really putting the hours in, 6 to 8 hours a day, let's say. If you can do that. I mean, if you can't do that, you do 2 to 4 hours. If you can't do that, you do whatever you can every day and do heavy work on the weekends. I tell people all the time, everyone should be taking this course. This course should be taught in grammar school, okay? And expressed, pieces of it throughout their entire education, When any child comes out of school, out of 12th grade, they should be able to speak publicly. Everyone should learn how to do that. So they should learn how to speak publicly, especially in a court of law. They should understand how the court system works. They should understand who we are as a people, this nation, what we're founded upon. They should know the Constitution. They should understand the natural law. They should understand the purpose for the equity, which is legislative law, and they should apply that equity upon the people that it should be applied upon within a court case as you're moving forward. So these are the things everyone should learn. By the time you come out of school, people should be able to take care of their own business. They should have learned the civics. They should have learned the Constitution. They should have learned court access with the common law. They should understand the laws of nature and nature's God and how that whole process in the courts work. And if they were properly taught, like I said, they have to take care. We'd be putting lawyers out of business. Look, lawyers belong in equity courts. That's where they belong. And yes, you can bring a lawyer into a court of law. I really think they'll tell you only a fool will represent themselves. Now, I would agree if it's a criminal case, maybe a fool would represent themselves. I don't know. I'd have to think that a little more out. I definitely, if it was a criminal case against me, I definitely would have a lawyer, but I'd be very active in what that lawyer is going to say and approve every paper, anything they file, be at every hearing, making sure that my true interest is in play. And that would be the only case I would think that I'd bring a lawyer in. Other than that, any case, I would say only a fool would get a lawyer to represent themselves, to represent them. Because nobody can know and produce the case better than the person whose case it is. The more knowledge, but then it requires, if you have that structural education on how the court system works, how due process works, and you've gone through the courses, and you've read the books, and you've read some key, Supreme Court cases, particularly in whatever case it is that you're dealing with. You should be able to go in and kick butt. Articulating yourself is an important thing. A lot of people don't feel comfortable talking in a public setting, maybe. Don't feel comfortable maybe articulating themselves, period. That's something people have to get over, and they got to move through it if they're going to take care of their own business. And again, this is something, my son, my son, we sent him to a Christian school for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. We took him out for third grade, and we homeschooled him from that point forward. But for those early years, one of the things that they taught children to do, and my son learned, was to get up on a stage, talk or sing or do something, okay? And so, this is something every child should learn so that they can speak in public and take care of business. But if people, are older now and they don't have that ability, they got to push themselves. They got to do it. They got to learn to do it. I was kind of concerned or frightened or scared a little bit, or quite a bit maybe, speaking publicly the first time. And you get through it. The second time's a little easier. The third, before you know it, it's old hat. You get up there and just talk. Okay? But you have to do it in order to get to that point where it's old hat. Doesn't mean nothing. I'm going up there, make my point, express my opinions, bring up whatever knowledge I know, and talk about whatever the subject matter is I'm talking about, and that's it. Move on. But you got to do it to do it. So anyway, if you need to take this into court to really deal with it, and you have to open a court. You have to sue everybody involved. Okay, everybody. You can't leave anyone out. You sue the town, all the individuals that are in part of the process of that thing. You sue the people in the that own that water system. Usually what it is what do you have, sewer and water together?
Yeah, it's sewer and water together, but are you saying civilly?
Oh, yes.
Or do I go to the grand jury? Do I ask them to go to the grand jury? See,
no,
the way...
This is necessarily criminal. It's
okay.
not, on the big end of this, it is criminal. But
right.
It's not, you can't handle it on a criminal case. No, you sue everybody. You sue them for every penny they got, every penny you can get, every one of these people, for the stress and all the things involved. I know if you have water and sewer, your sewer is connected to your water bill. So it makes it even higher. Do they separate that, or do they do water and sewer?
Yeah, they separate. Some towns, I'll just charge you a basic sewer fee, and then they'll add the water, so that they'll get that minimum quarterly amount.
So you got to
And
both
yeah,
sides of that issue. Both, if that's it's separated water on the one hand and sewer on the other, because you're paying a higher sewer rate also because you're
right,
paying the amount of water that flows to your house. That's how
right.
they figure that out. So you got to sue them. Anybody that is in the way, anybody that is involved, that has their toe in this whole thing, you got to sue them all. Okay, and
Because I
that's
was thinking about using a hook. I'm going to do it. I'll do it civilly, but I wanted to, send something to the prosecutor and have him dismiss me, and have him, hook himself, and just save that for later on if we want to readdress the grand jury issue and show that, clearly there's no redress or grievances here because there's no these so-called agencies are not doing their job and protecting the public.
Who's the highest elected official? What do you live in? A town, in a city, a village? What do you live in?
It's a township, so it's got multiple towns to it.
Okay, well, if you're in a town, who is the highest elected individual?
It's the administrator, town administrator. Then there's a mayor. They have both, and then there's the council members.
Talk to the county administrator or the mayor.
Right.
Have you tried to talk with them?
Yes, I had him send them an email. They had a meeting with him. There was about 12 of them, and they just hammered him and abused him. I wasn't there, and he's not a good speaker, so he was in over his head.
Well, everything you need to do in the beginning has to be by paper. Everything you need to do is by affidavit. I don't file a paper anywhere for anything that's not an affidavit form. Okay. And get certified, signature. You do it certified mail with a signature return.
Yeah, we're doing that this week, the affidavits. He's going to allege all these concerns, and we're going to quote some laws and the accounting and, our assertions. And, and then we're going to get it notarized and send it to everybody.
All right. Well, again, when you do the affidavits, you write your affidavit up. You set it aside when it's done, a day or two, then come back and read it and massage it. Change it. You try to less is more. You want to try to reduce things to the minimum amount of words you possibly can. On the one hand, that says the max amount of things. You go back and you maybe use different words, a different phrase. You restructure the sentence. In other words, the point I'm trying to say is when you do an affidavit, you want to massage it over and over and over again. You also want to structure it in such a way that a person who has no clue on what your case is about or what you're even talking about, when they read through that, you want to make sure they understand it. You may have to structure it in a certain way that really gives them maybe a bullet point process to begin with, maybe. Again, you'd have to think about how you want to do this. You want to put all the facts in there, exactly from point A to point Z. You don't want to miss anything. Okay, and whenever I write a paper, I'll go through it 10 times, literally. I'm not 8, not 9, 10 times. Okay, and I'll put it aside, come back the next day, reread it. Oh, let me change this sentence. So let me use these words. Oh, I forgot this point. You see, by going back over and over the next day, or resting it for a day and then coming back to it, you're going to find ways to say it better, to articulate your point clearer. You're going to find a way to put it in such a structure in a way that it is easy to see, maybe again like bullet points to some degree. So you have to have a really good affidavit if you're going to send it to a mayor or someone like that, and you do that in a letter affidavit form. In other words, you do it as if it's a letter because it's going to whoever, let's say the mayor, I don't know, or some administrator. You do it in a regular letter form. Top right side, you got your name, your address, and so on. You got the date. Then you have the person and their address who you're addressing it to, and then you have SS for a sworn statement. Okay, and at the bottom, page, 2 page, 3 page, whatever it is. At the bottom, and you want to number those pages, 1 of 2. Let's say it's 3 pages, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. So it has to be numbered, no one connecting between the 3 pages. And at the end of that page, when you go to sign off, you want to put the necessary sentences for the purpose of an affidavit form. You want it notarized, so you have to have the notary sentence in there. And then you have to sign it before a notary. You want to get at least 2 copies, one for yourself and one to the person it's going to. And if you're going to be doing this to 3 or 4 people, well, then you have to have, those 3 or 4. It could be the same letter addressed to different people, but you want to do 2 affidavits for each one of those. One you have to have a copy of, and the other affidavit you serve.
So the mayor, everybody has to get the affidavit, and you in 2 copies each, or just the town manager and the law firm?
Well, if you're sending it to individually to all of these individuals, or you're sending collectively, however you're going to do it, I don't know. You could be sending it to 3 different groups, all in that one letter form. It's got to be clear.
Oh, I see. Right. That's what I'd rather do. I'd rather put all of them on there, the Township of Old Bridge, and name them. The administrator, the mayor, the water clerk, whatever, blah blah blah. The law.
You do one nice affidavit with all of them, but remember, what you could do with that though is you want to get. I would always get 2 affidavits, and I always get 2 affidavits for myself. Okay, if you get the 2 affidavits, you can send them copies of the affidavit, but you have the originals, and you can show the original if they ever challenge that, which they shouldn't.
Okay.
But in any event, yeah, you want to have a copy, at least 1 copy for yourself. But I generally do 2 for myself. Because
this will probably open up the can of worms, but that's the only thing we got to worry about, because they come at you, they retaliate.
Oh yeah, they're evil. Oh yeah. Who are you? Yeah. They're the boss. You're just you're the servant. They're the boss. Who are you to come talk to us and tell us anything or challenge us? Yeah, it's unbelievable. These people need to learn who they really are and who we are. But only the people are going to be able to do that. If you want to be free and independent, it first starts with thinking free and independent. And once you start thinking free and independent, now you have to act free and independent. And when you go in, you got to kick rear end with the law, with the real law. And, even though they don't understand it more often than not, they scratch their head because I do everything, and very important, people need to learn how to do these kind of things with lots of footnotes. You want to put all your authorities in footnotes. So, you put a little footnote and you give that authority down at the bottom of the page, okay? And when these people read stuff that they've never seen before, positions and points and thoughts that they've never seen before, that they never learned in school, it's got to rack their brain a little bit, okay? And that's got to throw them off a little bit. You go into court, you want that judge and the other side wondering, who is this person, And because you're going to come in, they don't come in this way, the way I'm talking. They don't come in with footnotes. Yeah, they'll quote a law, they'll quote and a lot of the time it's all BS. I can't tell you how many times when these lawyers come in and they quote a case, and we go to look the case up and they say, goodness, this case actually supports our position. Okay.
Some of them use AI, John. Not the lawyer, but some of the lower capable people, they just use AI, and like you said, they just throw.
You're absolutely right. And that's why AI is going to be one of the destructions of who we are as a people, because it prevents us from really thinking. I use AI too, but not for that. I would never use AI to write a paper, but I would use AI, and I do use AI for doing research. But what you got to remember about AI is status quo. You will get the status quo answer. If you ask a biblical question that you know the answer to, okay. AI is going to make reference outside of your thinking, outside of the Bible, if you're a biblical individual. If you're in there and you're holding up a position, I had an argument with AI, and I look at it as being an argument, went back and forth on an issue, but the main issue ultimately that we're under the natural law, and AI did not see and refused to receive and accept the fact that the Declaration of Independence is the foundation of our law. We are under the laws of nature and of nature's God. And AI's position was ignorant and weird. But this is what lawyers teach, and this is the status quo. AI is going to give you status quo. So if it has something to do going up against the status quo, you got to be real careful with AI.
Well, I'm going to use the USC 18 statutes. And then I was also thinking, and I'm giving you all nice stuff here to really think about. I wanted to see the FBI public corruption.
Yeah, before we go into that, okay, I would first come meek, okay? I'd come through with the problem. I wouldn't come in with assaulting them, because you're really trying to get them to agree and scratch their head and say, maybe we should fix this problem, you know? So I wouldn't come in with anything from USC 18, which you're going to focus, and you're going to be assaulting them with that. That's going to, their backs are going to arch up.
He already had the meeting with them, and he's got a lawyer, and like you well know, the lawyer's basically saying, well, give them another couple of, the lawyer's trying to squeeze in for another couple of more and compromise, so everybody's happy, and we're exhausting all of these other avenues.
All right, but I still would look at it. But this is now your first time really going into from your own perspective without the lawyer. Or
yeah.
Okay, if you're going to do that, come in from a meek perspective. That's my suggestion.
Okay.
Come in and lay out the problem, and talk about this was totally unrighteous and burdensome, destructive, cost me economically, causing whatever. Put in your damages and stuff, but come to them with the point on this, a paper that you're going to put together, the affidavit, letter form affidavit. And don't talk about how they broke the law and using USC 18 on them. There's all kinds of things you can apply upon them. The second letter can come in that way if they don't respond appropriately.
Okay, John. Thank you, John.
Okay. And learn what you can. Everyone should be learning the law, Your heritage is in the law, and your inheritance is liberty. If you don't know the law, you're going to lose your liberty. And you don't know what it is or how to protect it. Okay, let me move to the next person. Thanks. Okay, let's see if this will go right now. Robert from Texas, you got the mic. Go right ahead.
Hello, John. Can you hear
How
me?
you doing? Can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, we're about to run out of time, and I agree with all the principal things that you're talking about. When we get into the issues, it seems like we're fighting the king, and we have the law on our side. And I feel like the anxiety and the urgency of everybody has really positioned us on the top of an avalanche of liberty. But when we try to fight with the king's laws, I don't think we're ever going to win. Nobody can get educated enough to be like a lying lawyer. So you're absolutely right about the laws of nature's God. And this is all I've been spewing since I found out that was the first page of the U.S. Code annotated. And basically, my little short 5 firsts are what we should be concentrating on because nobody knows them. So it's like the first 5 words of the King James Bible. In the beginning, God created. The first 2 laws of the first sentence of 6 billion sentences in the U.S. Code. And these lawyers absolutely abhor those, and they just ignore them, and the judges don't know them either. And that's the laws of nature, the Creator, and the laws of nature's God is the Bible. And then you go to the first sentence of the Constitution, first 3 words, we the people. So everybody I talk to, nobody thinks of that and think their vote's going to make it. And then you look at the first article in the Constitution, all legislative powers are in the Congress, and all these guys that are out there thinking they're the king now violate them all the time. And then the last little bit is Article 4, Section 4, the only guarantee in the Constitution, and that's a guaranteed protection against invasion. And the definition of invasion in Black's Fourth is of rights, that they're actually invading us with property and our rights with this Muslim thing. So I elaborated on this at Commissioner's Court. They were going to vote on an agenda item, number 1, and if they voted for it, I showed them that they were violated their oath of office, and that was they made an honorary day for a female bishop in a church, and that violates the laws of nature's God. And if you're a Puritan, you wouldn't stand for it. And it's my argument that every one of the 4 commissioners and the judge violated their oath when they violated the laws of nature's God. So I feel like that should be our approach, is learning the essence, the inner nucleus of our bomb that we can blow up all this bar with and break out of jail and be free again. So I don't know. I've made multiple people rich or famous, and one of them was a professor emeritus in geosciences at UCLA. Another one was an admiral on the Enterprise. And then another one was a guy that owns and manages more property than anybody in Oregon. So I'm not good at organizing and getting groups together, but I am at getting at the root of the problem and fixing it promptly. And I feel like this is the last thing that the Lord has me would desire to have done, during the last bit of whatever I have left. So,
all right. Well, let me respond to some of that, and we are running kind of late now. We've got a few other people in the queue, and I want to try to get to as many as I can, but I'll be very short. You are absolutely correct. We're in prison. We're in a statutory prison. People don't realize that, but we are in a statutory prison. They control us. It's called the law of the city. It's also understood as Babylonian law. Okay. Also civil law. All of it is the same. It's the law of the city.
I'm having a hard time with the phone to my ear. I can hear you plain and clear on the speaker, but can't even get to the speaker.
Okay. All right. So anyway, you are right on that. If you go into Black's and Beauvair's law, they talk about the king's bench. There's only one king they talk about. That king is Jesus Christ. All of these law books, going back, the dictionaries, they all focus in on the same thing. Black's law has 51 jurisdictions. One of those jurisdictions is the law, L-A-W, which is in law, at law, or just law, which means that which is proceeds according to the common law or the natural law. Okay. Now, our founding fathers in the very beginning, you made mention, that one of the very first things they did was strongly suggest that the Bible be in the school. And the Bible had been in the school till 1963 when they removed it. And that was an important thing for these people to do, is to remove God. And so they removed God from our courts. And when they removed God from our courts, removed the Bible from the courts, they removed the doctrines of Christ. And that is the key point from the Bible, that people would get, children would get, the doctrine of Jesus Christ, which is moral. And that's why America has always been a giving nation, a charitable nation, a compassionate nation, okay, and like no other nation, because we had learned the principles, the doctrines of the Bible, the doctrines of Christ. Now, they've removed that, but nevertheless, the king of the court still remains to be Christ. It is a big price to be paid by these people. Got to pay a big price on Judgment Day because they actually removed God out of His court. Okay, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and that's America. Now,
my whole point with the first sentence of the King James, the first sentence of the Declaration, the first of the Constitution, the first article, and I'm all about remedy. I'm not about identifying problems. We all know what the problems are, and I'm just urgently obsessed with getting remedy and how we proceed. Now,
it is very difficult to get any remedy in these courts because they've been stolen courts.
Right. No, but we can make the arguments in our commission, councils, and boards and courts if we aggregate, and when two or more are gathered, then and show some effectiveness, it will be throngs that follow in each county of the 3,142 that we have. It's that precipice of liberty, but we have to go on offense instead of defense, and we've identified the problems. We need to identify the remedy. And one of the best ways to get your committees of correspondence or committees of safety, whatever you want, is showing up at your commissioner's court, because the people that show up there, they've got a problem and they want some remedy. And, when I talk, then multiple people will come and talk to me after the court is over if I stay around that long.
That's a very interesting point, because that does sound like a good place to go to try to get people committed.
That's where you find the people that are really interested and want to deal with what they're facing. All these people that we put into office and then expect them to do something other than cash lobbyist checks. So,
well, I do agree with that, and that's a very good point. I got to move on to the next person. I apologize because we're just about out of time, but I'd like to talk some more with you. Maybe next week you come on, we could talk some more about this and get into more.
I called in about 10 minutes after, and it seems like I always get pulled up. It's Bob in Texas. I don't know. I logged in, but I dialed you on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, we did get long-winded on a couple of calls, one particular, but it was an important call because a lot of important things came up, and I think people might have learned a lot of things from that and understand, and maybe we've kind of convinced people that they need to go get themselves re-educated. They need to go get themselves involved in their communities through committees of safety, a county committee of safety.
Well,
right.
we can educate them. But when people say the Constitution or the principles of the Constitution, they don't really know what they're talking about. But it's very easy to learn the principles when you go to the laws of nature, nature's God, and Blackstone. He's the first one that put that into law with our founders. And every one of our founders studied Blackstone 11 years before they wrote our founding documents. And that's what the principles that he brought out to our founders, even Lincoln and Charles Finney and Jefferson and Madison and Jay and Marshall and all those guys. We've got to go where they went. And the only two things they had when they declared our independence was laws of nature and nature's God. They weren't fighting the king with the rules of the king. And this bar court is everything about being the king.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I agree with that. And, again, I'd like to talk more, but I got to move on, and maybe we could talk next week again.
Okay. All right. God willing.
Yep, Lord willing. Amen. Okay, let's take I can only spend a minute or two with each person. We got 4 people in the queue, and I'd like to get at least a minute or two, and hopefully, we can communicate more next week, get in early and get in the queue early, and we'll see where we go. But let's take our next caller is someone coming in as anonymous. Where you've been unmuted. I heard you muted. What's your first name and your state?
Yeah, this is Elizabeth, and I'm in Arizona.
How you doing, Elizabeth?
Good evening. Just 2 things, just briefly. The woman who was on, and she's trying to get her son back. I'd like to send an email in and see if she might want to exchange phone numbers. I can't remember her first name. Can you remember?
Usually I keep a note. Looking through. No, I call offhand. Maybe she can just get into the queue real quick, and I'll unmute her.
Okay,
Hang in there, and I'll try to get.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make it complicated. You know, it'll work out the way it's supposed to. So then the other question I have is it if I'm okay? So I'm learning, and I'll tell you, I started an affidavit on this, and I'm so amazed because affidavits take on a life of their own, especially because I've been learning about the law and the, you know, my Bill of Rights. So what happened, I don't need to go into the long story, but I'm trying to address this through my credit union, and I'm in a dispute, and they caused fraud, and but I can't find a United States address to send them anything. They're in Switzerland, and their emails are they're AI-ish. They're and actually it's good because AI is really stupid and makes really sarcastic comments, you know.
If they're in Switzerland, they have to be registered to do business here in the United States, so they should be on a register.
Okay, but okay, so I don't know where to go for that, but I will.
I'll tell you, this is where AI would be helpful. Personally, not that I've tested other AIs. I use Grok. And Grok explain your question exactly the way you said to them.
Okay.
Being in Switzerland, and make the mention of what I had said to you concerning the fact that to do business in the United States, you got to be registered somewhere. Okay, and I'll tell you what, that's where Grok shines. Those
okay. Yeah. You're cutting out, John. I'm sorry. I can't.
I think I'm coming in clearer.
You sound like the Culligan man.
I know there's some stuff on your side from time to time, some
Oh, really? Okay. That's okay. I get it. So they have to be registered somewhere, and where are they registered to do business in the United States? So I'll go with that. Now, the second half of this is can I claim that they violated my rights because they're in Switzerland and I'm here? Can they deny me my constitutional rights here?
Well, again, if they're denying something from you without due process, they deny you due process. I mean, what have they done particularly? I mean, I remember your calls. We've spoken a lot. Is this the same subject?
Yeah, I'm just learning I'm seeing so many things going on around me that are wrong. Basically, they took an unauthorized renewal payment, and it almost, I had all this stuff on my checking account. It almost overdrafted because I was, down to, it was the end of the month and everything. And so then what happened is that they took it, and I filed a dispute with my credit union. They told me that, well, filing a dispute is not the best way to get a refund. Okay, so that's their attitude thing. But what happened is that
I would challenge.
What's that, dear?
Well, I think the person doesn't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't. Yeah, no, it's truly obvious. But the thing is that they used PayPal to take my payment, and I don't use PayPal. And they say in there that since you're using a third party, to make this payment, you may not be able to get a refund. So this is insane.
Hold on.
I can't hear you, John. I don't want to miss what you're saying. It's really. Can you hear me all right?
Why don't we talk? Come back next week, and hopefully there's a lot to say. I have a lot to respond to.
Okay. We'll talk next week. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the call tonight. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take our next call. It's a wireless caller. What is it? It looks like 646.
Yes, that's...
First name and...
My name is Aza. Hello. Greetings. Blessings. I have a lot to say, but hopefully I'll make it quick for the short time we have. I'm dealing with a lot of things. The one thing I want to talk to you about is you mentioned that you would never go present yourself if you were in a criminal case. So I'm in a criminal case where I was convicted of shoplifting. I was doing an experiment with a group. I won't go into it. I had sent a notice, and anyway, I was told that I should get a prosecutor. At first I was scared and I took a plea deal. I was going to take a plea deal to go to counseling or something, but then I decided, let me present myself. I missed the court date due to an emergency that happened, and I was issued a warrant and a $1,000 bail, and I am trying to explain to them what happened, and I have the proof of the emergency and everything, and they're going to bring me back, but I'm trying to figure out if it's best for me to present myself with the case. Basically, they don't have all the elements of the case. So according to their own statutes and codes, not even talking about how they're violating the Constitution, but their own statutes and codes, they don't have all the elements. But I know these judges are corrupt. So I'm wondering if your experience is that it's always best to take the plea deal with these criminal courts, or, I have been studying for a while and standing up for myself in court, learning, like you said, your children or your son that went to school and learned public speaking. I'm pretty good with public speaking, but still these people are criminal and they can do anything. And when you're in criminal court, they can take your body right there. So I was wondering what your thoughts were about actually presenting yourself in a criminal case and why you say it's not a good idea.
Have you made contact with the court at all since the warrant?
Say it again?
Have you made any contact with the court since the warrant?
Yes, I wrote them today and asked that the warrant be removed based on the fact that I was trying to adjourn the case before it actually happened.
Okay. All right. Well,
before the court date, because of an emergency I had.
When did you send it out, today?
Yes.
Okay. You might want to follow that up with an affidavit and be very clear and put your proof together on what it is that prevented you from going and so on and so forth.
I did actually in the presentation that I put into the email. It is have an affidavit in it.
Okay, when it comes to a criminal case, sometimes when they give you a deal and the deal is like the deal you got, what was the deal they want to make with you?
Counseling services.
For how long?
I had 6 months, I think.
Okay, what, once a week, once a month?
Something like that, yeah, once a week, I believe.
What's the maximum they would be seeking?
In terms of what?
If you went to court, what would be the maximum? Would they be looking for prison time, jail time, what?
Well, the judge said to me when I told her I wanted to present myself, she said that I would, am I aware that if I'm convicted, it's a minimum time of like 6 weeks or 3 months in jail. I don't remember.
Okay.
But
well,
according to a friend of mine, when they looked at it, they said it's a bench warrant. They're only going to ask for a bail, if anything.
Right. Well, look, you had a good reason. You should have called the court, though, because it is a problem.
I did call the court beforehand.
So you called them, and then they sent the warrant out anyway, and then sent the letter.
But I didn't just call the court. I also put in paperwork to have the judge dismiss the case. So I don't know if that was appropriate. Maybe I should have waited till just the adjournment.
Okay, but the bottom line is that you notified the court that you couldn't be there.
Yes, I did.
And did you make mention? Did you get the person's name that you had conversation with?
Yes, I spoke with the clerk.
Okay, well,
she's the one I emailed.
Okay, so you have her connect. That should be, and you've let the judge know that you had that communications with the clerk. And
well, I don't speak to the judge; it's through the clerk.
I understand that, but the point is when you sent your paper in, the judge asked to be reading that paper addressed to the judge, I presume, for the purpose of removing the warrant, and you want to, of course, make mention of the person told before, and they would confirm that, so that should get rid of that warrant.
That should give it a what? You cut out.
That should get rid of the warrant. You should be able to get rid of the warrant with that information. But here's the thing, one day in jail is hell. I mean, I wouldn't want a day. You wouldn't want to go for weeks or months. Okay, so if you don't have a lawyer and you can't afford a lawyer, and if you don't have the knowledge to be able to really take care of the business yourself, and you can potentially be in jeopardy of going to jail, I would then take the plea just to get that out of the way, and then pursue potential lawsuit in a civil case, if that's what you want to pursue, depending on the issue. I don't know. But with that, if we want to talk more, it should be next week. I want to hit these two other people before we
Thank you
close.
very much. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, only got a couple of minutes. 282 area code, wireless caller. You got the mic. First name and state. Wireless caller, area code 262. You got the mic. Last call for wireless caller, area code 262. Okay, we'll take our last caller. Mark, how you doing, Mark? You got the mic. What state you from, Mark?
Indiana.
Mark from Indiana.
Okay.
I got a minute.
This is real quick. In the beginning, you brought that one-page flyer for CCOS up, and is there any way that could be loaded in your under your handbooks, videos, and tools, or organizing a CCOS? Because that PDF is not in there.
Okay, but this one, Make America a Republic?
Yeah.
I can put it over there and with the tools. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because I missed that. Because that's good. I'll use that from now on.
All right.
Okay, that's it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our call tonight. Let me just end the Q&A here. And that brings us to the end of the call. We'll see you next Monday, and again, we have Bible study Wednesday, Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on the road. Okay, with that, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.